Good evening. Good evening. This is the Real Sports Fan Podcast, back for another episode, season number 4, episode 3. And I am very excited tonight. I got a good friend of mine. We were talking before we went live about how long we actually known each other, how long it's actually been. It's definitely been 20 plus. I got a good friend of mine and someone you've all been waiting to hear, the great Brendan Kincaid. Brendan, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Appreciate you having me.
No problem, man. Thanks for accepting the invite. Like you said, I know you could have did a lot of other things, but being able to be on here with you tonight and just kind of reflect on not just the promising great career that you had, but just the brotherhood we had and just the inspiration that you've been to a lot of people, man. So I just want to again, man, appreciate you being on here. Appreciate everybody for watching. This will be on YouTube in a couple of days. Share it, tag people, but we're gonna have a good time and we're gonna celebrate Brendan tonight. It's funny, man, because I had a chuckle because you're the first person that before I remember I asked you for the picture, and you're right. I should have just Googled everything, because I tell you, I Googled so much and then found out so much that I didn't even know that I thought I knew. A lot of times I have a certain way that I do my research, man, but with you, I had to almost reverse it and make some notes so that I didn't forget everything, right? So I'm gonna say a couple of things, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of it, because your list is long. I'm not going to see everything that you've done, because we be here all night. That's how much you've accomplished. But I'm gonna give you your proper introduction, and then we're gonna get into a lot of things. But again, they call you a 4-sport athlete. I call you 5, because I know you couldn't play baseball in high school. So to me, you're still a 5-sport athlete. 6 30-year awards in 3 different sports. I know you were also put in the CSD Hall of Fame. And also I did find out, I know you obviously graduated from Salisbury University, and you were put into the Capital Athletic Conference Silver Anniversary Team, which honored the top 25 players during the first 25 seasons of that conference. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
That was a pretty cool thing, because that spanned a long time. So that was pretty sweet to get that.
Awesome. So what we'll do is, I know you're coaching right now at Haverford College in Haverford, PA. And if I'm not mistaken, before that you were at Goucher College in Baltimore, Maryland, if I'm not mistaken. And then I know before that you were assistant coach at your alma mater, Salisbury. So just talk a little bit about, briefly, just a little bit about right now, you coaching tennis at Haverford, and, just what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say I've been up to more, obviously, with COVID, like we got shut down last spring. We were out in California competing with some teams out there. And, we had to basically fly back in the middle of our trip. But, we're trying to get things back going. We have, a shortened season this year. It's kind of unfortunate for our guys who are, juniors and seniors. And I'm sure just like with the high school programs, guys who have been, juniors and seniors, especially in the recruiting process for all types of sports. Yeah. I know, youth sports, I know is back, maybe not to full strength, but, they kind of kept it moving, which is good. But yeah, man, I mean, this, like, couldn't imagine not having my junior and senior year, not just from a recruiting standpoint, but just from experience standpoint. That would have been crazy. So yeah, we're just trying to make the best of it, and trying to push forward and make the most of the time that those guys have. And like I said, a lot of things are changing daily. Some for the good, some for not so good. But yeah. So right now, like I said, we're trying to just get our season, just some semblance of that, and then go from there. And hopefully back in the fall, we'll be back to where we need to be.
Yeah, I definitely hope and pray for that. Like you said, I was thinking about that even for the high school kids. Like you said, being a junior, senior, and not being able to play. it's crazy, and it sucks, honestly. Do you know yet if they're going to try to give an extra year eligibility to some of the seniors if possible?
Yeah, they are. So the NCAA, even the last 2 years, has granted that. But obviously, some of the challenges with that is, not everybody's on
Hmm.
scholarship, right? So,
Yeah,
money is a factor for some of these guys, and so, so we will find out, and it's kind of hard, like recruiting wise, like not knowing maybe somebody comes back for another year. So these are like challenges that are happening a lot, and actually you see it a lot with like Division I college basketball with the waiver they granted. A lot of guys going from grad schools to some mid
hmm,
majors to big time programs. So
yep,
it's kind of spanning all types of sports. So but
that's
it's
true.
brand new,
That's true.
and it's you
Yeah,
know it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward.
it is. It is. It is. It is. And hopefully, like you said, going forward, things are starting to turn. Like you said, COVID's still out there, but hopefully with the vaccination and things like that, but definitely hoping, you guys have the season. Talk a little bit about I heard that you were named to the ITA, which is the Intercollegiate Tennis Association committee, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's a 3-year term that you're associated with that committee. Just talk a little bit briefly about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so basically it's like an operational committee. So we talk about a lot of, I mean, it's not that glamorous, trust me. Like we're in like
Oh, okay.
a lot of admin stuff, just like
Got you.
meetings about protocol and if we should be playing, and because of things constantly changing, we do a lot of like rule ranking,
Hmm.
those type of things, but at the national level. So I mean, it's a
Got
really cool thing to be a part of because we got some
you.
guys competing at the national level, and I obviously have a say in some of the things coming down the pipe in terms of making our sport better, with different
Hmm.
rules, protocols, things like that. But this year, it's been crazy with we're meeting every week, when we normally meet once a month. So um,
Okay.
so yeah, so it's just for really it's just rules, regulation, and rankings and things of that nature.
Got you. Got you. That's cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you born and raised on the Eastern Shore, from Cambridge, Maryland. Obviously went to high school there. Had a great career there. Before we even get to the teenage Brendan, even before we even get to what you did in high school, talk a little bit about being a child from the Eastern Shore. Because I always, one thing I always try to do with these podcasts too is we have a lot of talent on the shore, and a lot of people don't know about the Eastern Shore. So let's talk a little bit about growing up, on the Eastern Shore.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I mean, something I look back on now, like, and when I'm in it, when you're in it, you don't really, I mean, you don't know any different, right?
Hmm.
So,
Me
uh,
too. Yeah.
I think for me and my my family as well, it was always about sports. So I think no matter what I wanted to do, my parents were real supportive in terms of trying to put me in everything from an early age, and really we put you know we didn't have much money, but trying to put the money we did have to you know travel, help other people that were in that program, and
Yeah.
so it was a real, for me it was a real cool experience because I mean all, all my guys coming up, and you included, like I got to meet so many different types of people from the different sports that I played,
Yeah.
and that was something like just growing up on the shore. I think maybe the one thing as I started to get older, the challenges of opportunities off of the shore, and then
Hmm.
how do you get to those opportunities? How do you afford those opportunities? I think, but as a kid, when you're able to play rec, and you're able to just be able to go 15, 20, 30 minutes away, and compete against in some other
Yeah.
really good youth programs. I think it was something that laid a real good foundation for moving forward with athletics. But I think the great part for me was like you said, like a lot of people don't even maybe know that I played baseball, and that was probably that was maybe my best sport. Like going into,
I was gonna ask that. Yeah, I thought
yeah,
so.
yeah. So I mean, that was something like every day I was doing something, and people that have known me for a real long time, they knew that, you know, uh, my dad and he pushed me, pretty strong with that. May have been one of the reasons I didn't pursue baseball a little longer. But no, it was. But that it's still a sport. I love watching. I love and I like playing it too. So but yeah, that was early on for sure.
That's awesome. And I was gonna, and staying right there. I'm glad you mentioned your dad, but talk about the impact of mom and dad. And how they created that foundation for the man that we see today.
Yeah, well, I think too, it's one of those things where kind of looking back on it, didn't really understand how lucky I was to have, first of all, two parents in my life, and they're still together, and you know having people that look out for everybody, so not just me. So like, I probably a lot of people, and my people from Cambridge will know this, when that Ford Escort rolled down Cornish Drive, everybody knew who that was on Saturdays and Sundays. And so my dad, I think, tried to do what he could to make sure that not just me, but everybody. And I mean, I can kind of attest, he treated everybody just as good as me,
He
and
did.
sometimes even better, so which was
Yeah.
so at least when it came to sports. So that's something, like, looking back on, I really I mean, I got a lot of respect for what he did. And I mean, that's probably the hardest part, as growing up, is like living up to
Yeah.
that now as an adult, trying to do some of the things that he did to give back to the community, and asking for nothing back. So
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing, Mr. Joe, Miss Marine. Appreciate you sharing that. And like I said, I've met them, and obviously it's been a while. I don't remember everything, but like you said, great people, and everybody come in contact with. Like I said, even from Cambridge, like I told you, the conversation me and Ty had today, speaks wonders of who your parents are, who your parents still are. So I appreciate you saying that. Let me ask you, because I know you mentioned baseball, and I want to mention two things in your childhood before we move on. One, talk about, from what I understand, from what I read, and from what I know, obviously knowing you as well, is that you were given the option to wear a prosthetic arm, if I'm not mistaken, from 6 months to about 8 years old. And from my understanding, while you were, I'm not sure if it was maybe while you were on the bus, you would take it off, put it in your book bag, and your parents didn't know at the time. So just let me know their reaction when they found out you did that, and what they said.
Oh, they were mad, and probably more so because, like, the money it costs, and we didn't have that type of money. So
Got you.
I mean, they were pretty heated. But like for me, I just I felt like I could I could do things a lot better without it. And again, this is when I'm young, so I don't even, I wasn't thinking of it in this way back then. But like a lot of it was for like aesthetics, so like how it looks, so I didn't like stand out.
Right.
So and I didn't care about that either. So
No.
and I think being put on with different sports, like there was always people watching me in certain ways. And
Hmm.
when from the time I was really young until I even noticed, like even still, like when I walk into a room today, I know everybody's looking at me a little differently. But that's one of those things that I've just kind of gotten gotten used to, and never really bothered me, So but I think it was maybe a good thing moving forward, because it got me real comfortable with like who I was, and not necessarily like what other people thought, or how other people kind of treated me. So, and then too, like once you got to know me, I think like that was a real easy thing, because I was quick, especially at a young age, like prank and play jokes, and make
that's it.
And I used to, I used to come at others.
Tell it. Go ahead, tell it.
Too. There was always when it came to sports, I was pretty serious, but anytime outside of sports, not as much. So.
Yeah. And it's funny. Let me just run you real quick. It's funny you brought this to my recollection, because I can remember. I'm gonna jump up then jump back, but I can remember, like you said, on them AAU vans with you, and I don't know if you remember, we had a lot of conversation. We sat by each other a lot of times. We even if we weren't on the same team, but I can remember. I don't know who you did it on. I don't know who you pranked. I can't remember that. But I can remember you being just as serious, I don't know what, and I think you told me something like, I got my arm bit off by a shark. And I mean, you were stone faced. And then eventually, and you went with it for a little while, and eventually you was like, I'm just joking. You know what I mean? But that's a way kind of, I guess, like you said, those people that may have stared to kind of break the ice and let them know, look, I'm just like you. Just talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I think there's like two ways you can approach it, right? Like some people make those type of jokes because they're uncomfortable, right? Like for me, I had a real good sense of like when people weren't comfortable. So like, I guess what I was trying to do is just kind of, like I said, get them to let their guard down, just be like, just relax, it's chill. It's all good. Like, and that's the thing. Like I always, I tell people now is like, are you, when people ask me, are you cool, with me asking about this or that? And I'm like, I don't know how I would have made it this far. I mean, I'm 34.
Right.
How long I made it this far if I cared about that. So, so yeah, man. So for me, and even still, like just trying to not take everything so serious, and there's obviously, good teachable moments about, certain things, but I mean, for me, it's just more of like, trying to make people feel comfortable and just kind of understand, like, I mean, this is what I do. I've been doing this. I'm out in front of everybody, and it doesn't bother me. So.
Right. And that's very well said. And that's one thing about your personality. I mean, you've always been a guy that, like you said, you can cut up with. And, when you were almost like a compulsive personality as well, because of course I read also, and I want you to touch on this, when you were a kid. Tell me about the miniature golf vacation trip, where I think you were, I think it was like 234 holes as a kid, 13 rounds that you went, and I think your parents trying to leave, and you were studying this repetition, hitting. Just talk a little bit about, I guess, where that drive came from. You know what I mean? For you.
Yeah, it was more so not necessarily because, not saying I didn't want to be good at it, but it was more so to beat somebody else. So, and I think that's kind of one of those things where, people, that's another thing, like getting back, like if people are like, well, the reason you got a good work ethic is because you only have one hand, right? I used to kind of think that was crazy, because like when I'm trying to win, I'm not thinking about that at all.
Not thinking about that. No.
Yeah. So, I think like for me, that competitive drive is more just, and I think it evolved differently. So, I think there's different, as I got older, little different type of pressure, because when you perform at a pretty high level at a lot of points in your life, people always expect you to perform at a really high level at most points of your life. True. So, but I think like that also made me work differently, like work a little bit harder, put a little bit more pressure on myself to prepare and practice a certain way and go about things a certain way. So, I think that drive was real early. I think that was I don't think there was anything specific that kind of put that on. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that was something like I came out of the womb with like heavy
Mm-hmm.
drive, about
Mm-hmm.
anything,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
whatever sport it was, like I wanted to be, the best at it. I wanted to be, the guy at it. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably something that is probably more defining of me than maybe anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome. Well said. Well said. Um, Before we get to high school, I know the one sport you couldn't play in high school was baseball because you decided to play tennis, and we'll get on that. But talk about really just how much you love baseball, because when we became teammates and we played AU together, the first way I actually knew about you was because of baseball, because people were telling me how good you were in baseball, and then even as I was getting ready for this interview, I was reading about one of your All-Star games. Where I guess all the kids they seen you coming back, and all of them came up close, thinking well, he can't hit that good, and next thing you know, it's a triple. You know what I mean? So let's talk about your love of baseball. I know you had mentioned a little bit about what your dad, but it seems to me that was your first love and maybe even your favorite sport.
Yeah. And man, you did some good research, because that was an
I tried, brother. I tried.
early one. So, yeah, I think that was maybe I was 10 years old. I was in All Stars for the first time. And yeah, I mean, so I was real, like, especially when I was young, I was fast. So, um,
Mhm.
I used to bunt a lot. I used to slap the ball around.
Mhm.
So, people would, play me pretty shallow. But I could get a hold of the ball every now and then, and that
Mhm.
only worked early on, because you know how this goes. You play all stars, and
Right.
you're on the shore. You're playing pretty much against the same people over the course of year to
They
year.
get they
So
get to know you.
exactly. So, like, there was, I know when we're playing in high school, there's not much new basketball wise, I'm gonna be able to do, because all the guys I played AAU with and against and practice with, so it's one of those things. And I think that's maybe a defining thing about the shore is, like, you really get to know your competition really well.
Great point.
And in my case, like, a lot of respect, for the guys that I played, and uh, you know, through the course of 4 years of high school with some, and 2 years
Yeah.
of high school with others. So yeah, I mean, I think that was something, that was always, but that being said, as I got older, I had to and I got, from 10 to 14, 15, getting stronger, figuring out the game a little bit more, getting smarter, evolving my game a little bit. But yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I was hitting, I was hitting my stride a little bit with baseball, but and I don't even know really what it was. I mean, I think I had, some uh, pretty heated moments at certain points with my dad about certain things.
Oh, okay.
He was a coach of most of my all star teams, and he was a good coach. But he was. I mean, he didn't want anybody to think he was showing favoritism. So
Right. Favoritism.
sometimes when you're 13, 14 years old, you don't really understand that stuff. So, um,
Yeah.
I joke around. I said I started playing tennis to make him. But the thing I liked about tennis too was it was individual sport. I played team sports, baseball, soccer, football, basketball. Really, the only
Mhm.
individual sport I ever played was tennis, and so it was kind of a different challenge, because I mean, not that I would do this in team sports, but, like, when you lose it, I mean, it's on you. So there's nobody
Mhm.
to really look around and say, well, if so and so had scored more, we would have won. Or if, they had thrown me a better pass, I would have made a shot. It was more like, I mean, you got to take ownership for
Yeah.
winning and losing. And so that was something and having that drive, and not having, somebody to count on. It was different. The one that I liked it more, or liked it less.
Mhm.
It was just different. And I think that was one of the
Okay.
things that I loved about playing a lot of different sports, is, like, I was never really burnt out. Like, I was never tired of playing basketball, or I was never tired of playing football or soccer or tennis,
Mhm.
because, I was constantly doing something different every season. And, I think that's up for debate. If I would have focused on a couple, would I have been better? Maybe, but I also could have got burnt out and maybe not enjoyed them and had the success that I had, because I still had mad love for a lot of playing each sport.
Yeah. Well, my God, if you think you could have got any better, I say I don't know what else you could have accomplished, but I get what you mean. I get your point, and you also made a good point. And I know you had a front row seat even about the coaching dynamic when it comes to your dad, because obviously Richard Guy coached you at AU. Mike was his son, so I know you even seen that that firsthand there. Let's stay on tennis for a moment. As we get to high school, as we get to CSD, Cambridge South Dorchester. Did you know freshman year I'm definitely playing tennis and not playing baseball, or how did that go with them?
Yeah, I didn't. What I made kind of I think my choice was I was going to try out uh, high school tennis, and I was going to play AAU baseball. And so,
Oh, okay.
um, I played. I played. I don't know if it was a fall league or a summer league, or I played, but I played in some capacity where I was still able to. I was. I guess when I was 14, I was probably playing 5 sports, and it just
Yeah.
got to the point where, I wasn't seeing myself. I think because I was spread a little bit, and I will probably admit at that point I was spread a little bit too thin, to not be able to really practice the way I needed to practice and do what I needed to do to be successful. But yeah, I mean, when it came to tennis, like, I mean, I didn't play. I wasn't the best player on the team uh, a freshman. I was just really figuring the sport out. I mean, I started pretty late with it, and so I think I was like the fourth best player on the team. Uh, and you're seeded, right? So you always play like
Mm-hmm.
play ones, so on and so forth. Uh, so yeah, and I had some success with that, but I was still getting beat by guys at practice, and so who I didn't think were necessarily as good of athletes as I was. So obviously
Mm-hmm.
that drove me, and really, like, it's kind of interesting, the sports that drive me more are probably the sports I had to work harder at. So, like, I mean, basketball is probably my favorite sport, but like,
Mm-hmm.
and I may have had some good games, but I mean, I really, like, I thought my freshman year I was going to get cut from JV. We had a undefeated JV team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even close to a starter, and so I had to really work to even make the team, and so I think part of that was part of that drive was a little bit a fear of of failing, not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
succeeding, but like more of like I'm working hard because I'm afraid I'm going to get cut or not be able to be a part of the team, or something like that. So it was
Mm-hmm.
interesting, and I
Gotcha.
think that's too what helped me with different dynamics of like sports. There were some sports I was on varsity from day one, and I was one of the maybe the better players. And then there were some sports where, I mean, my senior year of like I didn't start until my senior year of basketball. So um, I think there's, I had to be a team guy in certain sports and like watch, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
have a role of, my role was different, right? I was a role player in
Yeah.
sport, and then I was maybe more of uh, a main player in other sports. So, and I think handling that, I think it was good for me. I think that got me ready
Mm-hmm.
for college better,
Mm-hmm.
when and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little more. But when I did struggle, because it wasn't like it was a smooth transition from high school to college, and I was just successful right off the bat. So And same thing with high school. There were some sports where I wasn't successful right off the bat. We're talking, it's relative, right? But like in terms of
Right.
what people think, there was a lot of times where I'm like, man, I hope I just make the team, let alone like be on the team.
Yeah, I got you. And that's and it's and we are going to touch on that college part, but it's interesting though to hear you say. I picked up on that your struggles a little bit at the beginning of college is because I read a quote where one of your coaches, it maybe actually one of your coaches, your personal trainer, who said because of the and I'm just going off what I read, that the lack of competition for you, that you probably were really only probably 60% of what you could be, because of the competition you were going against. And that's no knock to anybody that he's going against. This is my words, Real Sports Fan Podcast. Talk to me, but that's there, and you don't have to comment off that, but that's there. But talk to me about when you feel like you arrived in tennis, and reason I know that, I know you had a great teammate. I think it was Youssef Sharif. I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name. I know he was a year ahead of you, and also know that, and you might have to correct me on this, but you ended up beating. I don't know if he was a number one ranked player. I can't remember what team it was. I don't know if it was Joey Pino, but either your freshman or sophomore, you had a big win, and that kind of, to me, kind of catapulted you, as you went forward. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think like after, having a decent freshman year in tennis, I think I actually started to work. And so I wasn't playing, and it may have been fall baseball, because I think I actually started to really, take it a little bit more serious. I started playing some tournaments in the summertime, and basically there were no real.
Oh, yeah.
And I think maybe that's what, the guy that coached me was talking about, is like
the saying, yeah.
And I think it was exclusive to tennis. So like, let's,
exclusive to tennis. Exclusive to tennis, everybody.
I can't say it wasn't because of competition. So we're talking strictly tennis here, right? So, I think I had to go to Baltimore and DC to find that type of competition. And the crazy part was, like, again, we didn't have the money to stay in hotels. So we would get up 5 a.m. for an 8 o'clock start. If I would win a couple rounds, we drive home. I'd come back 5 a.m. So like, I really appreciated having the opportunity, because, and I mean, it's the same thing. Like when we're going, to these AAU events, and we're up in Baltimore, and, we're able to, have these opportunities. Like, we're not really thinking about it at that moment. It's just something we're doing. But, looking back on that, I think maybe I was from a lot of kids that played in those tournaments. I was coming from a much different situation, because I was one of the few kids that was from the shore. But fast forward into my sophomore year, I ended up playing number one. I played a guy, I guess, who maybe was the Bayside Player of the year prior, beat him, and then I think I got named the Player of the Year that year. And so, it just gave me some good confidence, moving forward. And yeah, I mean, I think, and a lot of that is I started to get physically better, mentally better. So I think, two of those things kind of happened simultaneous, was one of the reasons I started, to move forward. And I think, actually my sophomore year, made it in doubles, made it to the state final, lost in the state final. So had a good positive reinforcement, because I made it that far, and then wasn't happy about losing. So had good motivation, moving forward the next year, where was lucky enough to get it done. So
awesome. Thanks for sharing it. Talk a little bit more though, how I would say I know your junior year, like you said in tennis, you won the doubles. Obviously, as we're gonna get on your singles career. I mean, it's it's crazy, But sticking with the doubles for a second, I know your junior year you won the doubles with Youssef, if I'm not mistaken. But the year before, I know you just mentioned that you had lost, if I'm not mistaken, in the mixed doubles. I think it was with Jessica Wolf, or hope I didn't mispronounce her name. But I know that you guys ended up losing in the title game. But if I'm not mistaken, the first 3 rounds you kind of went pretty quick, and I think it was kind of surprising, kind of how quickly you got, rid of the competition. Talk basically about how, like you said, a little bit more about how that loss helped you the following year, bring it home.
Yeah, and this is that was probably my first lesson to where what everybody's telling you, even if they're telling you good stuff, can hurt you. So, I'm 15, like we rolled through to the state final, and everybody told us we were going to win, and we weren't in the right mind space to do that. So like, I think moving forward the next year, it was like no let up at any point, and it was more on a mission as opposed to happy to be there. And I think, that's, it's a common theme, right? Because I think, I usually get it from two ways. So, I have some people that say I'm overhyped, and then I have some people that probably tell me I'm better than I really am. So, you probably both of those are not true. So I'm somewhere the truth is in the middle. So, I think that was one of the times where, hearing too much positive, and getting a taste of that for really the first time at that level, actually hurt result wise. So, I think that's a good point, bringing that up, because, I do think that mentality was a lot different that next year.
Got you. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. And then this is the last thing with tennis, and then we'll move on to one of the other sports. Talk a little bit about how great your singles career was, because I mean you were 3-time Bayside Player of the Year in tennis, 3-time, man. I mean, again, I know you never won the pat yourself on the back. You always been a humble kid, but man, I'm gonna tell you, man, that's just highly impressive to do it 3 times, and I don't care what the sport is. You do it once or something. You did it 3 times per year, and if I'm not mistaken, I didn't see anything your senior year, but I know you were 51-0 going into your senior year. I don't think you lost your senior year, in singles. Just talk about, I guess, what made you so good. I mean, I know you, because I know your work ethic. I know your determination. I know your grit. I know your heart. But I mean, is it, for kids that's looking at this and people, I mean, is it just work ethic? I mean, just talk a little bit about that.
Well, so I mean, and some of this, like, I don't know, I'm not trying to get into a hot take here, but I just think, like, I think especially on the shore, the best athletes, and I don't want to demean anybody with it, the best athletes weren't playing tennis. So,
yeah, no, you're fine.
And I'm not saying I didn't play against some good athletes, at different points. But I just think, the best athletes were playing football, basketball, baseball, they were playing something else, track, soccer, so, and I'm not trying to, demean what I did, because obviously it was, it was a really cool thing. But I think in a lot of ways, athletically, I had a pretty good advantage. And then by the time, like, especially on the shore, by the time I got to be a junior or senior, especially like coming off making a state final as a sophomore, even people that were maybe as good as me didn't think they were, so, I had a mental edge, and, even though, and I think for me, that was one of those things where, I always thought I was going to win, like, regardless of if I wasn't. And that's pretty much anything. Like, it doesn't mean I was going to, like, but I never went out and I still don't, thinking something good isn't going to happen, So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the combination of those two things, is what, made me pretty successful, in tennis. And like I said, I'm not trying to demean, and I don't want to, I better be careful saying that because Yost played tennis, so and he was actually pretty good. So I don't want him to come on here and say,
Nah.
I called him a bad athlete, because he's far from that. So
Nah.
like I said, there were some guys out there, but I just think on the, like, week in, week out competition wise.
Right. I know what you mean. Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that was one of the things that attributed to, that type of success of not, losing a match over the course of 4 years.
Right. No, I know what you mean, and trust me, they do too. And Yost was actually on here. I don't know if you got to see his episode, but he was on here last year, and he mentioned something similar to that. So trust me, you're right. And he agrees. He agrees. I get what you were saying, so I appreciate that. So obviously, great tennis career, which ends up also going over to college, which we'll get into. But let's talk about soccer for a moment. And because of time, what I want to do is I want to go, if I'm not mistaken, right to your senior year of soccer. Talk about, and I think I'm sure you probably remember this, but the game against Ken Island. If I'm not mistaken, you always played defense, and again, I might be wrong with that, but from my understanding, you were switched by the coach. I think it's your third coach in 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, but was switched to offense to get a spark against Ken Island. You guys ended up coming back and winning 4-3 in that game, and that year you end up being the player of the year for soccer. Talk a little bit about that game, if you can. Anything that sticks out, if you don't remember, that's fine. And then also that year, and what was different as well.
Yeah, that was a turning point for that year. I think, we couldn't score. I remember being switched that game. We didn't score in the first half. I remember getting cussed out at halftime. I remember being real pissed off going in the second half. And, I think we just got a lucky bounce, and then kind of the floodgates open. So just like anything else, scoring in soccer, scoring in basketball, once you see the ball go in the net, things change, regardless of if, how they've been prior to that. So, once that first one, went in, I think it alleviated some pressure, and then, we won a close game, and I think, we did pretty well in the Bayside that year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we finished,
I think we did.
Lost to North Carolina, maybe in a regional.
But, it was a regional. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that was, that was a turning point. And I think too, like the coach we had, we had some good players like Jamar Tillman, DeAndre Jones, played that senior year too. So, and guys from Cambridge know this, but they know D Jones because of basketball, but D Jones could play just about anything. So, I would say, football, he was crazy when he was playing, and then with soccer too, like, cause we all played on the same youth league soccer team. And so we had a lot of guys that came back as seniors. And so I don't know why exactly D didn't play, but it could have been just because he was trying to stay in shape for basketball. Maybe didn't want to play football because there was a higher risk, could get hurt for basketball season. And I don't know that. I can't remember that exactly. So, but yeah, so we had an athletic squad. We had a lot of speed. We had guys that can do some different things. So it was definitely a fun year. And one of the cool things about that was, with Jamar and DeAndre, like we got to play multiple seasons, together, different sports.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
So that was something that was really a good opportunity my senior year. And yeah, so I mean, just scored enough, and we did well enough where I got some good recognition, and yeah, it was pretty surprising, because my junior year we weren't any good. I think we maybe won 3 games, and so yeah, I mean, it was a good way, and my senior year was crazy. I was crazy lucky because of how not only individual stuff, but like the teams that I played on my senior year. I mean, I mean, we had a lot of success. So I mean, if I was going out like that, it was probably the best, as a team that we did in all 4 sports that I played on. So that's kind of something for me. Like, always the individual stuff's cool, but being on, so many successful teams that senior year is probably one of the best things about that year.
Yeah. You definitely had a heck of a year, and like you said, player of the year for soccer. I think he had about 16 goals, 5 assists, and yeah, it was a regional loss to actually put to Pocomoke. North Carolina lost also, but it was the Pocomoke. Yeah. Let me ask you. So now we will go ahead and go to football. What made you, or what makes you can say you, or speak in general, however you want, a good kicker? Because I mean, it was nothing for you to kick a 40-yard field goal. When I used to go to some football games, and I mean, field goal kicker, they couldn't even, kick it for 20 yards. So just, I mean, what made you such a great kicker, 2-time player of the year, special team player of the year as a kicker? Talk a little bit about that, and also, I'm sorry to cut you off, but also about, even the coach said how, it's unfortunate, obviously, you had soccer because of how great a receiver that you was as well. That a lot of people might not know about. But go ahead, talk about that.
Yeah. And yeah, it's funny. I don't love talking about kicking because I feel like anybody can do that.
You think so? Man, ain't that
Well,
easy? Ain't that easy, brother?
well, well, no. What I mean by that is, I never really, I love playing in games, but like I could never really get into like the practice piece of it. And obviously
Gotcha.
when I got to college, I was, I worked, had to work at it, and but I would just go crazy at practice. Like I'd have to do something else. So like that's why I started getting in to receiving drills, and I started like doing stuff on the defensive side. Like once soccer ended, I would play safety and wide out, and for scout team, and so I was doing that to kind of keep from going crazy. But I think one of the reasons I was successful with that was just I love the I love the pressure. I mean, I love,
Mm-hmm. You
like
did, yeah.
I would want, like if we were down 2 points and it had to be an 80-yard touchdown or a 40-yard field goal, like I'd be like, please, I hope we get stopped on the 23
Mm-hmm.
here so I can kick a 40-yarder. You know what I mean? So, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what kind of, I mean, and that's anything, right? Like the people that want it on the line are usually the ones that are able to have success with it. And um,
Yep.
my whole career wasn't like that. Obviously, I had to kind of build towards that. But I think, just going out and the atmosphere of the game, and that's like for me, the thing I loved about basketball and football is just the atmosphere of playing, and two, when
Mm-hmm.
things aren't going well, people are letting you know about it. And when things do go well,
Yeah.
people let you know about it. So I like both of those things. And
Yeah.
so, I think that's probably part of it. I think my teammates had a lot of trust in me too, in terms of like when it was on the line, they knew I was gonna, try to,
Yeah. Come through.
yeah, do what I could, uh, and prep too. So I mean, I don't want to say like, even though I didn't love practicing, I mean, I still did it from a standpoint of
Right.
not wanting to be unprepared going in that situation. But like, with that drive, obviously, there was, there were some things I would rather been doing at football practice than kicking. So I mean, I think having soccer, and I would go back and forth from soccer to football, and there was even some games where they were on the same day. So this is something I don't know if a lot of people know. My senior year, we played Easton and Y High the same night. So we played in Easton for soccer, and then we played Y High in football at County Stadium. And so we played. Oh, wow. They switched the time of the game, so I could they switched one of the times of the game so I could make the game. And we went into overtime, of course, and we beat Easton 1-0. We were in overtime. The game, I probably drove, and like I said, hopefully this passed the statute of limitations. I probably drove 90, 100 miles an hour because I had to drive my own car there, and I drove like 100 to Salisbury, and then played a game at County Stadium. So, I had to do well, because if I didn't, which happens sometimes, my coaches would be like, well, you're not focused on what we're supposed to be doing.
That's it.
So that's why, I'm not, wasn't having success. So, that was something also too, that was, I was getting pulled sometimes, especially 2 sports in one season, getting pulled in different directions, but made it work. It was all good. There wasn't that many times that happened, but it was crazy when it did happen. There was another time, I had to go from Crisfield to North Carolina same night. So I mean, it was, from that standpoint, thinking about it now, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, right? Yeah, I gotta say, like you said, a lot of times that's how it is. And when you in it, when you in the moment, is one thing, but when you sit back, and I did hear about that. I actually did read about that. So I appreciate you mentioning that as well. So that's awesome. And again, obviously you also go to kick also for Salisbury, which we'll touch on. But my favorite sport, obviously, where we met, right, it was finding me basketball. And I knew early on that first of all, I had heard already that that you were good. Obviously from Ty and D and people like that, Juice. So I knew you could shoot and all that. I guess what I want to ask, as far as your senior year, you had a lot of great, and you're humble, you're modest, but you had a lot of great games, right? Your senior year. I was at the game versus Easton. And I do remember this. You had 15 and 8 that game. And you had a key block in that game with about 3 minutes left. That you blocked it. It was a deflection. D Jones got it. He got a dunk, and they went up 4 with about 2.5 minutes left. What do you remember about the Easton Cambridge? You can speak on it from a basketball rivalry or just from a rivalry period. Is it the same rivalry with every sport, or is the basketball rivalry, since you were in it as well, a little bit different?
Basketball and football are different, I think, my opinion. I mean, but I can speak to that a little bit more. But like soccer, I mean, it was a rivalry, but like Easton always waxed us. So, I mean, you can't have a rivalry. Like we beat Easton my senior year, but like, to me, like you can't have a rivalry if you don't know who's going to, like you go 5 years, 10 years, you don't know who's going to dominate those 5 or 10 years. So, and even when somebody was having a down year in those sports, it was always a close game, So
that's true.
So yeah, I mean, I think like that game, I don't remember a ton, like I don't remember specifics about that game. I remember I remember years leading up to it though. Like I think my junior year, there was somebody who threw something across across the stands, and then they had the
stands. Yep.
Exactly, and so they had
your sophomore year. Your sophomore year. Your sophomore year. Yeah. Because your junior year was a game where that was a crazy game too. It was back and forth, and we finally beat y'all by 1. Yeah.
And so so I mean, there was a lot of just different things that happened in the game, in the crowd. Like coming in, cops taking us in, cops taking us out. So
yeah, man.
So I mean, I think like stuff like that gets you focused, to play those type of games. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, like I always love. I mean, I love playing. I love playing against Easton. I love playing against. I love playing against the uh, high level competition, but also too not just that. I knew it was going to be a close game. Like we all knew
Mm-hmm.
it was going to be pretty much every time out. It was going to be a highly contested game. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I mean that game at your place that was. I mean, I don't know what the final
It was
score was, but
crazy.
that was tight. I mean, what was
Yeah,
it?
it
Do
was
you?
tight. I think y'all ended up winning by 4. But it was a good game. D. Ricketts had a real good game. I think he got in foul trouble in the fourth, but it was they. I think Easton had y'all down your senior year by like 9, and y'all came back. I think Jones picked up a couple quick fouls early on and kind of got y'all behind. But like you said, you kept a minute. Charlie Pinkett, he's on here too. Listen, what's up, Charles? He kept y'all in it as well, y'all too, and then Jones came in and did the rest. So it was a close game.
Yeah, Pink had some big shots that game. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Ricketts put a couple in my eye. I do remember that. So I do.
I know he too today because he said he definitely wasn't missing this. So shout out to
Yeah.
Ricketts for that. Shout out to Rick.
Yeah. So he
Yeah,
he he
yeah.
definitely did. So I mean, so now that I mean, I hope because I know I remember getting threes hit on me. I hope he was the one I blocked the shot since he gave me so many buckets.
Hey, it could have been. It could have been. I'm sure I'm sure he's gonna comment soon. So I'll let you know if you don't or when he does. Do you remember um what you would consider your best game? Let me ask you that first. What do you think your best game was your senior year? Or do you even, or has that even, because I know I didn't give you this question, so I'm sorry, but or that doesn't even come to your mind. Do you have a game that sticks out to you besides Easton your senior year?
Yeah, St. Michael's. And the
My man,
reason
my man.
was my most important game because if I didn't play good, I was going to be sitting on the bench like I was prior to that game. So,
Gotcha.
uh, and I think, you know, it's it is what it is. I mean, I think the reason I had more big games my senior year is because I have way more opportunity that year.
Mm,
And so
yeah, I agree.
there, uh, I think I was on a pretty there were games where I think maybe my junior year I was on a little bit more of a tight leash,
Hmm.
especially because the game wasn't what it is today with like the three ball, where the analytics.
Hey, Brendan. Hey, Brendan. I tell you what, I'm gonna stop you right there, and I'm gonna get you on. I say that all the. Can you imagine guys like us that love to shoot the three? How it would be if we were playing high school right now when we used to shoot. They're like, stop shooting. But go ahead. I'm sorry, but yeah, you're right.
Well, especially like I would get in more trouble because where I was shooting from because I like to shoot
You had
about
range, boy.
well I like to shoot a little bit better 2 feet behind as opposed to right on the
Hmm.
three line. So
Hmm.
so yeah, I mean it was just different. But I remember that game. I think I mean I pretty vividly that game, just from the
Yeah.
standpoint of I knew because we had a starter out that and St. Michael's had a good team that year because I mean
They did. They did.
Yosef
They beat
Yosef
Easton.
last 3 year, and then they had a couple decent guards too, if I remember.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Raymond. Hmm.
yeah, and so I mean we knew that wasn't going to be an easy game. We hadn't started that well. Like we weren't playing great basketball up to that point as a team, and so I think I got going pretty early, and I mean I think I had 15, 17, something like that in the first quarter.
Hmm.
I had a 30, 35 footer at the buzzer,
Yeah.
and then uh, and yeah, that was probably the most important game for me because, like I said, who knows, um, how my season would have went uh, if
Hmm.
that didn't happen. But yeah, I mean, I think that would at ND that year.
Yeah.
Had a good
Yeah.
Pocomoke, Pocomoke, Chrisfield. I mean, I think the regional, the semi, and the the semi and the final, I think we played like our best team game. So what I mean by that is like Pinkett would have a good first half, D would have a good second half. I would have a good first half, Jamar would have a good second half. So like, the four senior guards, like when somebody wasn't shooting it, somebody else would, and then and yeah, so I mean, I think that was probably, and that was the best thing about that team to me was like we had guys that were real skilled that were coming off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
We were a pretty small team, so we didn't have a ton of size, but we pressed the whole game. We played pretty good D. We could shoot it, so we were we were pretty good until we ran up against Bennett and Dunbar. So those were the two. I think we had 3 losses that year. First game to North Carolina, then we lost to
Mm-hmm.
Bennett
Mm-hmm.
in the Bayside, and then we lost to Dunbar at Comcast. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean that
Yeah.
that Bennett team was good. They were coming off a state championship. They
Yep.
shot it real well that night.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were big, and we kind of packed it in, and they shot the lights out. So,
Mm-hmm.
they played a good game against us, and then I don't think we were, we were ready for what it was going to be like at Comcast. I think I had a bucket to start off the game, and then we were down like 15-3. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was pretty fairly even from there. But when you get down double digits in the first half to teams that are that good, it's a
Yeah,
done
it's
deal.
tough.
But
It's tough.
yeah,
It's
man,
tough. But I
my
yeah,
senior year
no,
was
no, no,
good.
you're good.
A lot of good memories, and a
Yeah.
lot of good memories about other stuff too, man. Like traveling and the atmospheres of certain
Mm-hmm.
games. I mean, like I always liked to play at North Carolina. I mean, it was a real small gym. It was like the
I love
YMCA.
there too.
It was like the YMCA in Cambridge. Only thing it didn't have was wooden backboards like the Y in Cambridge
Mm-hmm.
did. So
Yep.
I always like shooting with in a smaller gym, and I always like hearing everything too. So I
Yeah.
actually like playing against Colonel because the Fletcher brothers would sit in the front row every game, and by my
Shout
senior
out to
year,
Flesh.
yeah. So by my senior year, uh, it was more like they were joking around with me as opposed to like
Mm-hmm.
talking trash to me. But like we had some real battles. I actually love because I love interacting with those guys during the games.
Yeah.
So so I mean, for me and too like anytime it was sold out or close to sold out, like those were my favorite games because I mean I just love like
Definitely.
I always liked the
Love the
crowd.
competition. And you love
Yeah.
you love the crowd and the competition, man. And it's funny you mentioned the Fletcher. Jonathan Fletcher was actually on here last year. But everyone mentions them, when you talk about Colonel, because how can you not mention them, because you hear them right on the side. So like you said, nothing like that. North Carolina, totally agree with you. Bulldog Stadium, always loud. Like you said, we had my senior year, we had a tough first game there as well. And just to give you, your flowers as far as those games go, the St. Michael's game, like you said, 16 in the first quarter, 6 for 8 from the field, finished with 25, had hit 7 threes that game. And then, like you said, the North Dorchester game, you had a game high 24, 19 in the first half. So like you said, big games, but you also, and you kind of, mentioned this, and maybe you can touch on this a minute longer, is you played good when it counted. And what I mean by that is, like you said, the Pocomoke game, you had a great game. You and D Jones combined for 50 points. I don't even know if you know that you had 21, he had 29. Against them to get y'all against to Chrisfield, which was the rematch, because I don't know if you remember the year before they actually beat y'all to get to the Final Four. Your senior year, you beat those guys to get there. So did you guys have that in the back of your mind? Did y'all talk about that, beforehand? Or, okay, this is the team that beat us. Now we got a chance to stick it to them.
So if you really did both sides of the research, you would know I went like 1 for 6. I went 1 for 6 against Chrisfield the year prior. So I definitely remember playing.
I wasn't gonna mention all that, man.
Yeah, or maybe it was worse than that. It might have been like it seemed like it was like 1 for 100. So I know I played like trash that game. I think so. There was different, and I think where my mentality was different by that time, I knew I was playing 25 plus minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes a difference.
And so, and I knew that even if I wasn't hitting my shots, we had other guys that, and having all that shooting and having and having somebody so dynamic like Jones,
yeah, man,
we were always going to be in. And actually, I mean, like something that gets lost a lot, like there were some games where, maybe we weren't shooting the ball that great, but like our press created a lot of, I mean,
yep.
Jamar in that press, I mean, really wreaked havoc because he could get up guys and force, jam Quentin and Jones, who would, pick stuff off, hit Pink in the corner for 3. And so, there was a lot of stuff, and I think that was part of it too. I think we were down in that Chrisfield game. And we were. And we weren't really panicking, which I mean, wasn't all, being on there for 4 years wasn't always the case. There'd be some times where, guys would get on each other and so like, I think having 4 seniors, especially with Pink and D playing all 4 years on varsity, and me and Jamar, knowing each other and playing on every team probably I've ever played on. Jamar's been on every team I've pretty much ever played on, and so like we kind of always knew where each other were all the time. So, that was something that I probably showed up because I was comfortable that I knew if I didn't show up, somebody else was going to. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that was probably the best part about that tournament. I think by the time that we were hitting our stride and we played some good teams, but and had some good players. I mean, Will Mill, I think he might have been the player of the year in the South that year, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He went from Pocomoke to Chrisfield or vice versa. So, and so, there's those were 2 really good South teams and teams that we struggle with. But yeah, man, it was definitely cool and it was definitely a nice run and like that. A lot of this is something maybe you said you knew the other story, but a lot of people don't know. I had an opportunity to go to McDonough my senior year to play football and tennis, and one of the reasons.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't go was because I asked if I could play basketball, and they were like, "No, you can only play. Like we're gonna give you the opportunity to come here and financially help." And so we didn't. I decided, I was gonna, roll with. I didn't want to miss my senior year of basketball. I didn't want to miss my senior year of soccer. So, that was just something that was important to me that year.
And thanks for sharing. Actually, I didn't know that last part, so I appreciate you dropping that tidbit. And like I said, I'm sure that I'm glad you didn't go, even though I was out of school. But I know the CSD definitely didn't because they needed you to get there. And like you said, as good as everybody else was, I mean, you really contributed in a huge way. And like you said, at Christopher game, you're talking about the year before you might have had a bad game, but to get to the Final Four, you and Pinkett both hit 3 threes apiece. He had 16, you had 14. Jones had 21. And like you said with Mar, man, I played with Mar at the Y 2 years ago, man. Mar still make you pass the ball. You don't want to dribble the ball up with Mar. You know what I'm saying? We're in our 30s, and he still is a pest on defense. So, like you said, man, you guys had a great squad and a nice four-headed monster, too, at the guard spot. So I appreciate you sharing that as well. Talk about, and we're getting to the end of Rose Pro Sam podcast. Appreciate y'all. It's 11 after 8. Got Brendan Kincaid on. Thanks for everybody. that's been chiming in. I'm gonna let you look at the comments on your own when you're done. You got a lot of love out there that I can't give it all to you, but yeah, a lot of love out there. But talk about recruiting. I know it was a few schools you could have went to pursue tennis. Why Salisbury?
Well, maybe what I said to some people at certain times in my life probably won't be the same answers as right now. So, uh, so I mean, that's probably like looking back, like maybe the craziest part. One of the reasons I went to Salisbury is because I didn't have a lot of options financially. So like I thought after having the year that I did, I'd have a couple offers, to some places where I really liked.
Mhm.
And it just wasn't there for whatever reason. And I mean, I can't explain that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think I had a plan to just go to Salisbury. I knew the coaching staff for football, had been recruited for basketball and tennis, and so just try to have a good year in ball, and then transfer out somewhere was my plan.
Oh, okay.
And so not necessarily, and I don't want to seem like I'm throwing a bunch of shade at Salisbury, because it ended up being an amazing place for me to be able to grow and get opportunities, and there was a lot of stuff I probably wasn't ready for, that it may not have worked out the same way at other places. But I think that was part of it. They were going to allow me to play two sports there, which was not necessarily a deal breaker other places, but usually, I was getting some preferred walk-ons. So basically, you got a spot on the team, but we can't give, like, you got to earn a scholarship. We're going to bring a couple
Oh,
people in,
okay.
bring a couple kickers in, and you guys compete, for a scholarship. The only problem with that is if
Mm,
you don't, then you're stuck paying tuition. So
mm.
and at that point, didn't want to swing that. And so yeah, I mean, I think I had to kind of roll with, what, what I was, what was ahead of me. And so that's kind of the reason I ended up at Salisbury.
Gotcha. And maybe for someone in that maybe didn't play collegiately on in any sport, just talk about uh the way the competition changes, how the level increases. Because I mean, obviously people from the outside in, they look, okay, well, you won all these awards, even when you got to college, player of the weeks and player of the years, stuff like that. You had a great tennis career, but talk about just a little bit, whether it's the work you put in, the mindset, what you had to do, and you can talk about it as far as tennis or football in any perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is, like, even uh, at the next level, that's why it's the next level. I mean,
Hmm.
I was playing on a D3 team that was, top 10 in the country. I was first team all state.
Hmm.
I played in the Maryland Virginia football game. And I didn't see the field one time my freshman year for football. I was kicking behind a
Hmm.
guy who was a second team All American. And so that was tough, because I thought I was going to come, and two, like, that was more of my mindset. Like, I thought, I'm going Division 3. The schools that I've been talking to have all been pretty much, Division 1. But there's a lot of guys that I played with, at Salisbury football wise, that maybe were somewhere else and then came there,
Hmm.
or were looking somewhere else in high school and ended up there. And so, a lot of guys can play there, man. And that's anywhere. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, like, where my mindset needed to change, where I always didn't fear anything, but I didn't always respect everything. So, like,
Mm.
so I think the respect that I needed to have for the level of play I didn't have coming out of high school. I wasn't afraid to go and play at a higher level, but I didn't do the things at the same way I probably should have. Now, I failed a lot my freshman year, which helped me, like going back to, like I said, not being the best player, sitting on the bench, watching other guys play, in other sports that kind of motivated me. And it wasn't the first time I had been there. I think maybe if I didn't play basketball and I didn't sit the bench and watch other guys play and understand what I had to do to get better, I may have left school or, really struggled with it. But
Yeah.
After that first year, I kind of hit my stride because I kind of knew what I needed to do, and what the level needed to be, regardless of if I was staying there or not. Like, you got to play better, So, so that was something that I put my focus on, and so in tennis I had some success as a freshman, but not nearly as much as I thought I was going to have. I mean, not losing for 4 years, that didn't happen, obviously, and so. I had to get back on my grind in terms of that, and I had to change my mindset about, like, everybody can play, like, and at a level now where everybody's playing at the next level, and they had to do something to get here. So I think
Yeah.
that's where my mindset really changed, and once I changed that, my results changed in a positive way.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Appreciate that. Did you ever think you would I'm gonna ask this and then we're gonna do some quick hitters. I'm gonna get you out of here. Did you ever think
Sure.
you would coach? And if so, when did you know that you wanted to coach?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I ever was thinking about that necessarily as like when I was in high school or when I was in
Right.
college, but I just wanted to keep being around it. And so, after college, I had I had some pretty good accolades in college, and was one of the top D3 players in the country, and then had an opportunity to go to California and play at the next level, and travel around and do some things with that. And so,
Mm.
and I think coaching was just kind of the next, once you know uh, basically my time had run up with that. I think coaching was kind of the next thing I was looking to do, because I still wanted to be around it. I still like the competition of it, the winning and losing. I think that's something I still like. I mean, I think
Yeah.
uh, I like to. I mean, I think coaching is one of the only things, like, you can be super happy or so pissed off, like, from day to day, and so I think that's something I like to, and I like trying to figure stuff out. So just kind of the
Yeah.
same way, if you're struggling with something, if I can maybe, and it's not necessarily all about, well, I did this, I did that. It's more of like being able to kind of use some of your experiences to be able to try to figure out what your
Hmm.
mentality was and what other people's mentality was and what, goals were. But I don't think
Yeah.
I didn't always wanted to be a coach. I didn't really know. I didn't know really what I was going to do. I knew it was probably going to be something in athletics, though, because that's been, my whole life.
Got you. Got you. And I appreciate you sharing, man. Brendan, this has been a blast. Got a lot of comments. People saying you brought back a lot of high school memories. They haven't seen you in a while, so everyone's been tuned in, man. So this has been great. I want to hit you with a couple of quick hitters. You can just give me, one word or whatever first thing come to your mind, man, and then I'm gonna give you back the rest of your evening. But man, this has been awesome, awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Since no problem, man. Favorite football team. Who is your football team?
Whew. I gotta say this live. Dolphins.
I know, right? Okay,
Dolphins.
hey, okay.
Yeah.
They coming. Y'all coming.
We're
Y'all
good.
coming.
Yeah,
Y'all could have very well made it. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Dolphins their football team. Favorite basketball player.
Vince Carter.
Vince Carter. Okay. LeBron or Kobe?
Whew. I got to pick one.
Yep.
Van Exel, lefty.
Nick the Quick. You want to try to get out of that one, ain't you?
No. LeBron.
LeBron. Cool. Agassi or Sampras?
Federer.
Ooh, that was my next question. I was going to say Federer or Nadal, so it's Federer. Okay. All right, that's all I was going to ask you.
I didn't really follow tennis back then, so
Okay.
I didn't really have a favorite in terms of that.
Got you. Favorite baseball player, and I heard a cool story about you meeting, not meeting. I think you got a letter from Jim Abbott, former Major League Baseball pitcher. But besides him, is there another favorite pitcher or favorite baseball player?
Adam Jones, and I've gotten a chance to meet him a couple times, and he's a good dude. Yeah, Adam Jones.
Awesome, man, awesome. And I tell you, man, again, Brendan, this has been great. Again, man, I appreciate you doing this. You know, like I said, I know you didn't have to do it. You know, you took time about your busy schedule, man. So again, I appreciate it. Everyone out there appreciates it. You know, when you get a chance, man, check some of the comments out, man. But I appreciate it, man. I tell you, this is really, you know, it made the rest of the year for me, honestly, man. So it's been a while since I've seen you. So I definitely appreciate it, man. Anything you want to say to anybody that's out there, or anything at all you want to say?
No, man. I just appreciate you doing this. You know, I've checked out. You know, you doing this with a lot of people, and really bringing up some good stories from the shore, and some of them I know about, and some of them I don't. So, you know, I think it's just a really, really cool thing that you're doing, and you know, just keep going with it. Like I said, I appreciate. So when you do get big, you know, just don't forget about me.
Hey, man, we'll see if we get there. But you know, I ain't never gonna forget you, man. You my man, 100 grand, man. So again, I appreciate it, man. Give my love to your parents, and we'll talk soon, man. Road Sports Fan Podcast. We out of here. Peace, brother.
Stay well, man. Appreciate you.
All right, man. You too. Thanks.